Hey,
Am I there with
you
you?
there?
I'm there. Okay, you look like a god, much bigger, and I'm.
Oh,
Let me see what I can do. That's better. That's better. I'm on the left now, and not the right. You're on the right. I'm on the left.
okay.
You're looking good.
So are you?
We're
What's
still
going
alive.
on?
We're still alive. How are you, Carl?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Really good. Really good. Yeah. Yeah, good. I'm in a good space because it's nice to get this record out. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, I was looking. We spoke like 3 years ago.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Mm. It seemed just like yesterday.
And you were talking about that album that you wanted to get it out, and then three
Yeah.
years have gone by. Um, it's
Well,
it's it's so good, by the way.
I appreciate you saying that, Carl, because really, I mean, I think it started 7 years ago. When I really think about it, because that was when I was going to get Jimmy Copley to come across and play drums. We were just going to get together and just jam, and I can't believe it was 7 years ago and that he's been gone that long. But it really was the trigger of making the record because I didn't really think I was making an album. I mean, I must have spoken to you after all that time, as you say, 3 years ago. But that it started before that, and you probably know, quite a bit about the story of it. You know how it began. But it was really trying to get Jimmy across, and then him not being able to make it because of his disease, and the songs I'd written to get him out of hospital to encourage him became slowly the album. It grew from there.
Yeah, the four songs that you said that you had as like a
Yeah,
blueprint. Did
yeah,
you? So those were the ones that you gave to Jimmy to try to get his mood up. Is that what happened?
yeah. He was. I just thought, wouldn't it be great to bring back the rhythm section, like at the back? Not really for an album, but just that I thought when in our age and where we were, and we were communicating a lot, a lot at that time because he was going through some things in his life. I think he was having a divorce, and he'd always felt like playing on it in the House of Stone and Light was the best record he ever played on. So he always used to say, one day I'd love to do it again. And so I thought, well, before we die and leave this planet, let's get together and groove again and play. And I reached out to him, and then his girl, he told me he wasn't well, but he thought he would beat it. So he went in the hospital, and while he was there, he was in there much longer than we expected. And his girlfriend said, "Could you write some songs and some demos just to get him excited and get him out of hospital?" And it actually worked. I mean, I wrote four songs thinking about him and thinking maybe when he comes across, these would be the tracks we would play on, not knowing it would be an album or an EP or anything. And it did get him out of hospital. I mean, he on the actual CD, we actually showed one of his photographs and what he was writing about at that time, saying, "Doesn't music, bring everybody together?" And I can't wait to get out and play music. So he got him out, and he was rehearsing. He sent me a video of himself playing Shape the Invisible, and he said, "I'm getting fit." And then just before he was about to come across, he couldn't make it. He said, "I'm not going to get through this." And at that same time, Jack Hughes, the guitarist from Wang Chung, he came into town, and his wife had passed from cancer. And I just thought, why don't you come across to the house and forget about all this darkness and let's play some music as healing? And so he arrived around the same time we knew Jimmy couldn't make it. And I played him the tracks I played the tracks to Jack and said, "This is what I wrote for Jimmy." And he said, "These are outstanding. This is the best work you've done." And miraculously, Neil Taylor came into town. I mean, it was like all the band that played on House of Stone and Light started to sort of come around. It was like synchronicity. And slowly, I just thought something's happening here, and it was lovely to be with the original players again. And that expanded. That just made me write two or more songs. And then my drummer Trevor Thornton from my band Qfil, he took over the drum seat before Jimmy passed, and they both spoke before all that. And when we were recording the drums, it came to my mind, let's get Bill Dillon in Canada, let's get Russell Broom in Canada, And then out of the blue, for a song called "Breathe in Your Heart," Bobby said, "Wouldn't this be great to have a choir on?" And I've got people in South Africa, Zulu choir. So it was like, oh my God, this project is getting huge. And how do I control this? It's growing. And then out of the blue, Ray Parker, who I'd played, on Ghostbusters all those years ago, we just got together. Somehow an email flew between us, and he said, "Come to my studio. I'd like to see you again." And then when I was there, I played him 2 tracks and said, "I'm working on." He said, "Let me get my guitar. I'm going to play on these." And suddenly we had Ray Parker involved, Mr. Ghostbuster. And then it became hard for me because I just felt so much reverence for the performances of the players that I wanted to mix it and comp it and work on it extremely hard. That and COVID hit us. So I took a long time. But I think, the main thing was, Carl, I wanted to feel what it was like to play with those players again. It was great to have a live band around my voice. I'd forgotten what it was like to hear a snare beat behind you and feel a live section. It pushed me as a singer. So it was a long project, but I mean, this is, I think it's been out for a while, but it's only been a week. And, and I'm feeling extremely light of heart and happy about it. I'm feeling like it's out there, it's gone. So, but when I think about it, I think, oh, it's been out for years, but it's been a week.
Right.
So, it's a strange feeling. Yeah.
And you had you had PJ Moore of the Blue Nile play.
Yeah, I should have mentioned him because PJ was involved with House of Stone and Light, and I was a huge fan of the Blue Nile. Yeah. I know you're a fan of Phil Collins. And Phil Collins was, when he was working with me, was always talking about Blue Nile. And I'd used PJ for working on Robbie Robertson's album back in the 90s, and also Kurt Smith. So I just reached out to him. It was like I suddenly sat down through COVID with my emails and thought, I better learn about how to do Dropbox, because I'm going to get a lot of people playing and sending stuff. And he was in Glasgow and he played on, I think, 4 tracks, and it was gorgeous. The hardest thing for me, Carl, was when musicians sent their performances back. And what was very encouraging is they all thought the songs were strong. They thought they really felt the music. That meant a lot to me. You can imagine when you ask somebody to play on something and you send them a lot of crap and they go like, I better do it for him. He's my mate. But I got a lot of real soulful feedback. Like, this is quite special. And as I say, the thing is, when all the players' parts came in, it was hard to define. I mean, I arranged it, but it was like there was so many good things to pick from. I mean, I could have made.
I was going to ask you about that. Like, so I don't know, PJ Moore, for example, like when he's sending you stuff,
yeah,
just sending you like tons of things to use, and then you don't use everything, or you just like take sections and you just like, I need something here.
He most of the guys were very, very aware and wise what to do. So PJ would send maybe 8 tracks of keyboards, mainly analog keyboards, Jupiter 8, which is his thing. But a guitarist like Bill Dillon from Canada, he, on one song, on Breathe in Your Heart, he sent me 26 tracks of guitar. I thought, thank you, Bill. I'll stay here till Christmas and work on it. And the thing was, everything was good. So it was I had to really have that kind of orchestrated, emotional concentration to see what really worked with the lyrics and the vocals. And I really could have made 2 albums with all the players' parts. But there was a great sax player. I'd never used horns before, called Gary Meek, and he played on the funky track, the jam we did, Little Bird. And I mean, he just sent back what it was. He said, this is the main track, here are the harmonies, that's it. And it was like, okay, and actually the same was with Ray Parker. I was with him when he played, and he just sort of jammed and said, this is the, I don't do it more than 2 or 3 times because I'm catching the magic. And it was like, okay, but then someone, as I said, guitarists particularly, I think Bill Dillon, I'd met through Robbie Robertson. So, and he'd worked with Joni Mitchell and Peter Gabriel, and that they're experimental artists. So he wasn't sure what I would wanted, so he would just cover the palette, and cover the tones. Hear the guitars without reverb. Hear the guitars with reverb.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh yeah, why don't you just send me one with a 12 string backwards? So that that was one of those situations where I was watching the computer behind me as the tracks came in, and I was going 18, 19, 20. Stop sending me tracks. But what a joy, because their musicianship was so special, that it inspired me, and it made me work hard. When there was still a lot of the vocals weren't finished, so they were phonetic vocal sounds, and I wanted to make some of those sounds work. And when you get some of those musicians playing on it, it pushes you to go, this has to be good. I really have to get this right. So and I think I didn't master it like a new brick loud, making it like a new recording. I listened back to those albums I loved, like Avalon and Songs for the Big Chair. So when I was mastering it and mixing it at the same time, and thinking about those sonic records that you could play quietly and loud and still feel dynamics, Kyle.
Absolutely, yeah. I remember reading that you said that about, because you could just throw everything to the max.
Yes.
And then I always think you lose the mood, the atmosphere.
Oh, totally. Totally. Your instrumental album, you're aware that I know when you sent it to me, I was thinking there's a lot of air in this and dynamics. And we tend to forget that with working in the digital age. It's very easy just to push up the faders. Everything's there for you. All the mastering software's there for you. And it took me a while to work out what I liked. I'm talking a bit for the tech heads here, but it was like, how do I want to master this? How do I want the EQs to sound? And with so many choices now, in my days in the 80s and 90s, it was like everything was live, and you had an SSL board, and only automation was just beginning to come in. But now, it's very tempting to just go, it sounds better loud, but it doesn't. There's especially if you're looking for soul and emotion.
Yeah, I mean, right at the beginning when you have the guitar intro to Courage, it sets the mood of the whole thing. And it was perfect that you had that as a separate track. And
that was a big decision. Do we join it on? And I just felt like it's a totally different piece in a way. I was speaking to Jack Hughes today because I was talking about it. Basically, my manager was here when he was learning the track, and he's classically trained, so he was working out on my Gibson. No, it was actually on a Gretsch White Falcon. He was working it out. And my manager just said, I wasn't really concentrating. I was thinking about other things. And she said, listen to what he's playing. It's really quite beautiful. And he's playing it in a different tempo. He's just moving it slowly. And I just said to the engineer, I said, push the button. And we caught it. And then I put, like drone keyboards, John Hodgkins behind it. So there was an atmosphere. But lucky my manager was in the room, and she was, she spotted things. She would just go, listen, concentrate on what Jack's playing. And Jack's got such a symphonic ear, So it was a lovely start to the album, and it's quite quiet, so it's not as loud as when the record starts. But we didn't want to push that. We just thought that's how it sounded in the room.
Yeah.
That's how it was. No effects, and that's what it was. It was a feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first, like you said, like the first song, the intro, and then Courage it just explodes. It's just like we're here. Like it's classic Martin Page. It's got the driving guitars, the drums, and the chorus. It's perfect.
Thank you.
And today, your manager released the word, like the words that you were just talking about, the meanings of the songs.
Yeah, that's on the album. Yeah.
And I read that real quick before this, and I've been listening to this thing a lot, and before I read the thing that was posted today.
Yeah.
So I had different meanings of the songs.
Oh, well, that's good. That's great.
But it was interesting to read, like the Courage song. It was inspirational. Like it was it's like, I don't know, it's like in your face. It's like, let's go. And, you know, the meaning just says the simple act of love is brave. And it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the bravest of anything.
Absolutely.
And I wasn't listening in that way when I heard the track.
Yeah.
It was just so cool.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. You know, it's great that you heard it that way, because I think that's the subliminal power of music. You know, you want to hit on many levels. I've always felt, you know, as a kid, when I heard a record I liked, like Abraham Martin and John, you know, but Marvin Gaye sang it, I didn't know what it was about. I just went like, oh, yeah. And then it was after that. I think you always run the risk of not upsetting people, but changing their mood on how they hear a song when you spell it out what it is. But you're absolutely right. I felt very strong with Courage that it's been used a million times, and I think I was reading a book and somebody said, you know, the simple act of love is massive sense of courage. We're impermanent. We're not going to be here forever. And yet we sort of have so much empathy. When you see love, you go, that's really brave. Maybe not so much putting on a uniform and sitting in a tank. That's brave. Right. Well, but there's a real sense of somebody just in the hospital looking after us. And I think I was very affected by Jimmy. Jimmy was incredibly brave in hospital. And before he passed, I was driving home over Mulholland Drive here in LA, and he called all the musicians that he'd known, because he knew he wasn't going to be there the next day. And he was just telling everybody he loved them and how music had brought great people together. And I remember it just hit me like, if I could have a fingernail of that kind of bravery. And I felt actually that I had to get off my butt and do some work, because he couldn't anymore, and yet he wanted to. And so you feel like it's like passing the torch a little bit. And so I think songs like Courage and the next one, Fade and Your Whole Heart, they are, when I was writing the lyrics, even on Black Sun, which was to do with somebody who'd been blinded, and then they felt that their senses were better and they were more in tune with the emotions. I think that it was all really triggered by the fact of Jimmy, and I don't mean that as a negative, like, oh, it's dark. I just think that it was a reality, a truth. Jimmy was we're all at that age, so Jimmy was hitting us with the truth. And he was a stellar musician. And so, and he became a very close friend. So the way he was talking right at the end was like, music's everything. If you've got a chance to do music, you do it. You don't just sit back and go, oh, yeah, I'm really good. You keep going to inspire people. So I think lyrically, even though Courage isn't distinctly about Jimmy, I think there's an overtone of the whole record has that even Breathe in My Heart at the end. I can see it clearer now that all the songs that came were about coming out of the sun rays of Jimmy, in a way, out of his situation. The songs were coming from that. And I felt an affinity with House of Stone and Light. I've done 11 albums, and something felt like a bookend. That House felt like that, and First and Last Freedom felt like they were brother and sister. And I think that, I don't know why, but it was like the musicians came to me. I was ready to do it. I was ready. I think I'm singing the best I've sung. The range is not so high, but the soul is better. And so meant to be, in a way. And it's the most satisfying album I've done since House of Stone and Light, I would say, because of the fluency of the songs, the sequencing. It's a point that you made there with Courage. When it opens, it's in A and it's major. And then when you come to the end of Breathe in My Heart, you're moving in around the sort of B, Gs and G minors. And so when you go back to the beginning again, you're going up into a tone. Mm-hmm. So you feel the sunshine coming again, So something about it just feels conclusive to me, right, in its flow, like a book, I don't feel like I think all the joints work. Some people aren't like certain songs, but it's like, even when and I didn't really want to put Little Bird on and the funk songs and Simplicity, because I thought, well, I'm breaking the spell with my soul thing. But my manager was like, that's part of you. You're full of R&B, and go with it. And it'll be a release for people.
Simplicity is probably my favorite song.
I can't tell you. Everybody that to me. I mean, I'm just frankly amazed. I mean, everybody is saying some radio DJs, people I know from the past, they're going, Simplicity is the one. And I'm like, I wasn't even going to put it on the record, but my manager, Diane, again, was like, you don't know how well you're singing. You know, it was the first take, and it was just a spirit.
I know. I read that in the thing, and you're all over the place. You're no, but in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, I know.
You're really high in some sections, and then some sections you're just regular voice.
Yeah,
it's got that gorgeous R&B rhythm to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm that's in my blood, but I wasn't writing that thinking that it might go on the album. I was thinking, I'm writing this today, and it feels like this. And I said to Diane, it's a simple thing. It's simplicity. It's that's what I sometimes wish the world was sometimes. And she said, you don't realize that's a very powerful theme. And then people were writing back to me saying, I love Crowded House. I love Hall & Oates. And the way you're singing Al Green, I feel that. And I didn't expect this. I expected people to get Courage and Little Bird and maybe Eve and Abraham for their soul. But out of the blue, everybody's going, Simplicity gets me early on. I love it. So I'm changing my point of view. Great song. It's fantastic.
It's my favorite song.
I planned it. I knew it was my favorite song.
Yeah. So Eve, I think, is my second favorite.
Good.
Playing the CP70. It's just, right when it started, I'm like, it's the keyboard. It's that magic keyboard.
It is the magic keyboard, and you're totally right about that. The CP70 has a sound and an emotion about it. I think when I was young, I just got off on Peter Gabriel's early records with CP70 because it took the place of guitars in a lot of ways, and because of its, here we go, techno again. But there's a chorusing. It's bright, it's crisp, but it has an emotion written into it. And a lot of Peter Gabriel's early records, when he chose a piano to play, it was a CP70. It resonated with me that it's haunting, got a haunting thing. And I just wanted to write a song that was about the strength of womankind. And always in my life, I think the strongest people I've ever met have been women. And we take it for granted. So it was nice to write about the first woman, but also look at it about the comfort of the world, So it's one of my it is, joking here, it's one of my favorite songs harmonically. I know you're a keyboard player as well, so harmonically it reminds me a little bit as well. I wasn't sure I was going to put drums on it, and then I said to Trevor, come into the second verse, and it sounded like the Beatles and Badfinger to me, and I was like, I think this is going to work. We weren't even going to put drums on, but he played it so well. And then when I played it to Ray Parker, he said, it's too short, it should be extended. And I said, well, it's a 3-minute song. I very rarely do that. He's going, make it 4 minutes. And I was like, oh, no, I think it's all right the way it is. I remember, because Ray was like, that's good, but you need another chorus. And of course, he's such a good arranger. I was contemplating it, but then I think I got a little bit lazy and thought, no, we're done. We're nearly finished. Move on.
No, it's great. It's, when I first listened to it, I was like, okay, this is his piano and voice song. And then the drums come in. Later in the song, and then it's just explosive. It's wonderful.
I appreciate that very much, Carl. I always remember when I did the vocal first, I played it to my manager Diane in the car, and she very rarely cries, and she had a tear came in her eye. I thought, I've got something here, or it's the onions in her book. Right. But it was but I knew that I had something there, and she said it's not an easy song always to listen to because there's an emotional quality there. So I'm glad you like Eve. It's one of my favorites on the record.
It's I keep, every time I listen to the album, I listen to the whole thing. This is what I've been taking on my walks every day.
Oh, great.
And every time through, I find something else that I've heard. And so if I could talk about another one. So Your Whole Heart, which I know is about Jimmy.
Yeah.
But the way that piece is, it just kind of just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And it's got 2 minutes before you even start singing.
Yes.
Intro, which is something very different than you've done.
It is. And again, that was one of the songs that I actually wrote for Jimmy. And so where the intro is so long, which you've just noticed there, and it's like a choral, repetitive melody, is I didn't know how the song was going to develop, and I was sending it to Jimmy in London early, so he could just get the feel. Mm-hmm. But then, as the song developed, I asked a lot of people. I said, how about should I come in early and sing? And they were like, I get mesmerized by the feeling. And then you're really right about I just been writing to a supporter about this, and he was saying the same thing about Your Whole Heart. He said, I can't turn it off because it reminds him of Avalon and Roxy Music and just getting lost in this revolving thing. Halfway through the song, Trevor, he started when he was rehearsing, he was playing with the normal drums, and I said, it needs to be lighter, like Blue Nile, because we got a drum machine going. And so we fade him up, and he's playing with like these half brushes, so these brushes that are flayed. And so there's a lightness. And then I bring in a stereo bass, and very subliminally, you feel this thing moving. Like, see, if you were driving in a car, you just feel like, oh, we're just moving a little bit faster and moving. And I really am very proud of the way subliminally, like you just pointed out, you think you're in, where Your Whole Heart is by about 3 minutes 50, and all of a sudden you get this wave of movement, and it pushes forward. And this is probably the wrong thing to say, but it reminds me a little bit of like I forgot the artist I was thinking about, Bruce Hornsby. It's not the same kind of song, but it rolls, the way it is. It just pushes, and I could see. And then Neil Taylor played beautiful guitar lines with Jack Hughes, and I did little fretless lines around the edges. But and then of course the lyric is all about Jimmy. How I saw his whole heart when he was talking from hospital. People can relate to that in many different ways. But the way when you're in that situation, you hear somebody talking to you, fundamentally take this in. This is real, and you feel a person's whole heart. Then everything else goes out the window. You feel their goodness, because it's the reality of saying goodbye. But that track was written for him, and I'm glad, actually, Carl, because the way I'm talking, you go like, well, this is a morbid record, but it's not. It's and the rhythms are, for me at this age, it's good to get rhythms up. And so there's a rhythmic record. But I think that is because I knew when I was starting to write songs for Jimmy, if I was going to send things to him, they had to be rhythmic. He's a funky, Tears for Fears. He's a great drummer. And so, and he's particularly strong on ballads weren't his cup of tea so much. So Trevor was really great with Eve. It was like Phil Collins playing there. It's the same kind of John Bonham feel to ballads. But that's why even the songs that have a lot of emotion in them are going, and Your Whole Heart didn't have all the words, but I had a lot of them. And then when he spoke to me on the phone, that time before he left, it was like, oh, I know what this song's about. It's the seeing somebody clearly for the first time. I mean, you see everybody, but you don't really see their inner side until certain moments of change, of people going through things and human things. And so it felt like a right title to me. I could see all of your heart, not just what we let people see. Mm-hmm. I feel the whole thing, So yeah, I'm very pleased with the way that track. If you don't, your ears are tuned to that, but it's very subliminal. There's a move that starts to happen with the bass, and the drums start to appear. So yeah, it's a great feel on that track for that.
It was beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, and PJ Moore is adding his keyboards at the end, and of course he plays some inversions, which they go right through your soul. I mean, that some of those Scottish lamentable Blue Nile chordings, they're from another world. And so on the end as well, when everything starts to push forward, you start to hear. And he sent me a drum machine program. Well, I didn't even ask for that. Just play a keyboard, and suddenly there's this drum machine rhythm, and that joins on the end, and it's such an interesting rhythm. He's programming a drum rhythm that he sent out of the blue to me. And so you're right, on Your Whole Heart. If you listen to the end and then listen to the front, you wouldn't think it was you would think it was the same song, but you would think it's gone through a very sensual change.
So when you ask PJ to play, do you send him parts to record, or do you just say make things up?
Make things up to everybody. Yeah, I just wanted them to do their very best work, and to give them a sense of what I'm talking about. A lot of the vocals weren't finished; they were just phonetic vocals. But in phonetic vocals, even as you know, in a choir, just sound was enough. But I would never tell them what to play. I would pick the songs that suited the what I thought the musician was strong on. So I'd send 4 songs to PJ. I think I sent him Your Whole Heart, To Feel, Fade, and Abraham. And yet for Bill Dylan, I would have chosen Breathe in Your Heart and Eve and Abraham. For Neil Taylor, who's a very rhythmic and energetic guitarist, you know, you could nearly throw him on everything, but Black Sun and anything, Courage. So it was like I was like a director, you know. It's like, I won't give all the songs to everybody. These 3 are for them because I know their strengths. Even Brian Fairweather, my partner, who from QFIL, I knew what his strengths were. So, and he's Scottish, so I said, "You're not playing on anything." Nothing. You're nothing. That's all. So, sorry, I've got to make a joke about Scots.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So it was like being a director. It was like, you know, I'd have 11 songs and go 3 to him, 4 to him, 3 to him. Of course, Trevor played on most of the record. And just like Jimmy, I rehearsed him with me. I went to Trevor's house and we rehearsed the rhythm section together. And that was, I always feel that the drums and the bass are everything. You know, it's like, we got to get that right. And then going back to your question there, I'd learned over the years by working with Maurice White, with Earth, Wind and Fire, and Robbie Robertson, that you let players do their best, let them express. And then even with Jack Hughes, you know, it was just like, come in and play on these songs and feel it. And then I would spend hours after, maybe just selecting the best parts. And if there was a certain motive that was good, I might even take that and move it down and move it around and construct it. But I've always felt like these musicians are so good. They're going to pull something out the air if they're relaxed and they got time. You don't always have that time in the early years. You know, you're fighting to get hits and you only have 2 hours in the studio. But, you know, I have a studio at home here. So it was like, settle in, get a cup of tea, enjoy yourself, relax, talk, and let's talk about what the songs are about. Get it in the feeling of the spirit, and then let them go, you know, let them play. And probably, you know, the first take they do, there's always something special. Same with my vocal. You know, I think, I'm just learning the song, but you're not. That's when some of the things come out where you're too disciplined by the 6th take. You know what I mean. So a lot of it was the experience I'd had with other Robbie Robertson, and I suppose, Earth, Wind and Fire, because Maurice White was very much like, it's the spirit you bring into the room, the atmosphere of the room, you know, is integral to the way that a player will give you his best work, you know. And we had the time to do it as well. It wasn't like, hey, you know, time's up, mate, you know. You didn't give me anything good in 10 minutes. There's the door.
Yeah.
There was none of that. It was all like, enjoy yourself and feel it, you know. And again, I was doing this to make my friends feel good. I mean, and the songs are written for Jimmy to get out of hospital, and just I didn't care. I wasn't making a record. It was just to bring us together. And then when Jack came, it was like, I've got some songs you should play on, and let's lift our spirits, because he just lost his wife, you know. So I just thought, like, music is going to lift us, and I need to help. What's the best way I can help my friends? You know, they're in town. It's like, come across and pick up your guitar, because that's what you love. And it sounds noble, but I really felt that, you know, like this is, and I think that's probably encoded into the record a little bit, that it's done for the right reason. Mm-hmm. You know, we were there to express ourselves. And even Trevor, we've been interviewing everybody, all the musicians that played on it. And Trevor said, you know, I felt Jimmy's spirit when I went in to play drums. And Jimmy had written to him and said, I can't make it, mate. And he knew of Trevor. And he said, go and enjoy yourself, go and do it, you know. And so even Trevor said, I felt like when I was playing the tracks, I was thinking of Jimmy, you know. And
there's some fills that that he does.
Yeah,
that sound like Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm sure. You know, yeah. I'll have to bring that up to him when I see him again. But he was very aware that Jimmy couldn't. And there was one time when we were doing drums on a couple of tracks, and I still had saved a couple for Jimmy, just thinking on the off chance he might make it. And he had a bone marrow transplant, and we all thought maybe there's a chance it's going to work. Unfortunately, it didn't. And then we got a call from his girlfriend saying he's not going to be able to come or do it. And so we were in the studio. I said, I got 3 tracks, Trevor, that you haven't heard. Maybe we should. And I mean, Bill and Bobby Summerfield's lovely Neve studio with the drum set up. We'd already done things. And he said, give them to me tonight. I'll go home, listen to them, score them out, and we'll come back. And the next day he came back and he did Simplicity, Breathe in Your Heart, and Little Bird from one night of listening to the tracks. I mean, he's a writer as well, so he would score out it. And but he had great respect for Jimmy, so he just felt like he was following in the footsteps of somebody he really loved, you know. And also, you know, Jimmy respected Trevor, so it was a lovely feeling. And I didn't know Trevor was going to bring that up and say, you know, he just said, I felt Jimmy's spirit. We were doing it for him, and that was wonderful, you know, to learn. You know, so it was a good vibe. Good vibe.
That's cool. So when you were saying in the beginning of this interview, you quickly mentioned that some of the songs you didn't have words, or you were singing just melody.
All of them. Yeah.
So how do you find the message or something that you're trying to get to from the song?
It's sometimes you're lucky when you get on the microphone, you go simplicity, it will come out once, you know, and you go like, when you play back the rough, you go, something happening there. And sometimes you'll hit a chorus and you will sing something like Courage. You might, or on Breathe in Your Heart, I was just going, yeah, my way, and you just go, I like the sound of that. What words fit with that? So I literally took 3 months lying on the carpet in the living room there with the roughs of the songs, and I was crafting, because I believed that when I sang phonetically, I was singing the right mood. So, and some of the tones, you know, House of Stone and Light, you know, Have a Super Shaman, it's coming out, you're speaking in tongues. But I really believe that some of that sound and the way you sang it is so important, because you don't sound wrapped up in like, and now we're going to sing I Love You, Babe, you know. Yeah. You're just going, and you go like, there's something in that, you know, you swing, you're behind the beat. So I would spend ages making the words write the words to the phonetic piece, and then I would comp another vocal in next to the first phonetic. So if it was like singing a word like Carey Street, it might be and I would go eat, Carey Street, and you just have to be very, very good at moving these things in around the edges of what was a first take. So the technical side comes after. All the lyrics are written to the phonetic vocals, but on this record, I think maybe 6 of them, when I came to a chorus, I might have sung Simplicity, you know, Eve, you know, it might have just popped out. Abraham, that came out of nowhere. You know, I just sat down, played B minor, went, Abraham. It was there. But everything else was phonetic. But where did that come from? I just don't know. But that's the lovely thing of fishing. It's like throwing your net, you know, your rod out and going, I wonder what we're going to catch, you know. Of course, I've had years and years of experience of, you know, writing songs. So every now and then you go, I know that's the chorus. You know, I know that we're hitting the bridge here or something. But no, it's all sound for me. I never now. I used to when I was young, because there's words written out technically at first. I usually come in to do a vocal spontaneous with sounds, you know, the melody first. And that's why you get loads of great scats around the edges, because if you listen to Feel on the end, it's like John Martin. There's all these scats coming around the edge, and I tend to keep those if they've got some kind of spiritual alchemy going on, you know. So I'll usually do a lead vocal for 6 tracks. If it feels like it's really going well, I'll do 9 or 10, and then when I'm comping the lead vocal, bringing the lead vocal together. Some scats I'll just throw off onto other tracks because they're like Marvin Gaye. They're touching like symphonics around the edges, like harmonics, and keep those because they're colors you'd want to keep. And
you also do that in your bass playing too.
Thank you. I do that. I do the bass playing like that. I'll do a lead. I'll play about 6 times, and as I go through the track, I'll say the last 2 are freedom tracks. Go for it. I do that to most people when they've played. I say, now let's do a freedom track. Just blow. Yeah. Turn the lights off and play, and go for things. On fretless, go for it. And then I'll sit there. The longer is comping it, sitting there and listening to it. But I enjoy that because you go, wow, I never realized I played that. Put that in. That's great. And a lot of that comes from spontaneity. In the early years when we were Q-Phil and I was writing in London, you never had that option. You had to put down one bass line. That was it. There's something good about that, but now it's like, how would you play this if you were loose? How would you play this if you were if you were an octave up? What would you play? Mm-hmm. Go for it. We'll use it around the edges. There'll be some great harmony notes. I love it when you comping guitarists that have played 2 different times and you hear them. They don't know, they don't know they've played 2 passing harmony notes. But when you're comping it, you go like, wow, that's magic. And that's so expressive. So I think jazz, freedom, and then look at it after. I mean, it's I don't believe in this, but they used to say, write to authors, write drunk and edit sober, I don't think that works, but I do think there's a real truth in spontaneity, freedom. Do it without thinking. I'll leave the room, sing, we're going to find something great in there. I'm sure it's the same with actors. They want to say, loosen up. I'm not even going to watch you. Go and bloody well do it. And then you'll pick something that's really human, and special. Mm-hmm. I think,
yeah. So lyrically then you don't have the lyrics then no. So for like
no, I don't have them.
So like the song Fade, for example.
Yeah.
It was taken as a job from one of your supporters that write music about the effects of the Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But like you have like lines like its petals fall like winter snow and melt away. Like you just think of those like.
Yeah, I do.
It's insane.
Yeah, no, I mean, they don't all come out, but, they do. I mean, I'll hear a guide vocal. I'm doing an album now with Brian and Trevor, we'll finish a track and I'll just sing. And Brian will be sat there and he goes, you just sang Dream You Back there. And I went, did I? And he goes, that's really cool, And then the song bounce around that. And I do tend to get a lot in a phonetic vocal. I mean, I do. You'll find there'll be a lot of clues there. And on Fade, that those lines did start to appear because you don't always sit there and go la di da 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 da. You're going to be going and I call and I moved around and the light came down through the sky, and you'll have something and you go light came down through the sky. And you're off. And the last words you sang will mean something to you. Light came down through the sky will lead you off onto maybe something to do with the desert or clouds bursting. So it's one trigger after another. Of course, I've got the freedom here to do that. And, it's an embarrassing thing sometimes when you sing some of these things. They go like, what the hell is he singing? And where's he going? Somebody bring the pills in, And I warn people around me. I say, I'm just about to go into this singing in tongues. It's going to be bad and good, good and bad, and very bad, and then pretty good. But it's going to be a lot of mud thrown at the wall. But I found that some of like Simplicity, that was jammed, But I remember I was singing it and I went, Simplicity, feeling in your way. And you're off into Marvin Gaye. And then you listen to how you sing it, and you're amazed. You're already writing the words. It's already coming out of you. I feel it in your mercy. Mercy comes out because simplicity and mercy, they're not the perfect rhymes, but they're, like I said, I think a jazz player will play a few riffs and they they improvise. So, and I love to read and I love poetry. So I think a lot of what helps me now in the later years is that reading so much that when you come down to sing, a lot of what you've read, these words start popping out all over the place, and they flow. I was doing an interview yesterday and I said to somebody, and I thought I'll use this again. This sounds good. It's alchemy, and it's like being a wizard. It's like pulling things out of the air. And it's quite beautiful. It's a bit of it is really truly magic. Music's like that in general. I feel very lucky to be doing it at my age still. But it's still magic. It's still really, and it's different now. It's like my voice has changed, so I'm singing differently. I never used to have much vibrato, and now I can't stop singing with vibrato. It's like, where did that come from? So you never know where you're growing and where it's coming from. And I think it is a sign of I think musicians, artists, people like yourself that lift people in rooms, they're wizards because they inspire people through art. And what is music? I can't tell you what it is. I can just say it's something I sort of have a relationship to. And we do pull it out of the air, don't we? You know what I mean? Even now I'm talking to you. I mean, how quick am I talking to you? I didn't plan this. It's just what you're saying. And you're my, so I think it's all alchemy. I said to the person I was speaking to, I believe in this record. There's like House of Stone and Light. There's a time code embedded into it. I believe the songs will get better over time. I think it took me a long time to make, and I had to stop listening to it for a while. But when I heard it after many years, it was like, this is strong, this is good, this is good. And the longer you go on it, it's a tapestry. I do believe that. I don't know about hit singles and all that. I just wrote from my heart. But I do believe I do 100% believe that someone who gets into the record will play it a year from now and go like, oh, I love that. Blue Nile do that to me. It's like there's some things and Genesis, I just go, that's always going to hit me. Always. It's written. It's embedded into a great spiritual place. So I do feel that. And I think House of Stone and Light had that. You could, many years later, you'd still find things in it, so that's, it's a funny thing to say. There's a time code embedded in it. I almost wanted people to play it over a long period of time because I think it's going to speak to them in different times later. Even I don't think it's a fly by night kind of thing. Like, oh, that's pretty good, like that. Yeah, okay. I think things like Your Whole Heart and Abraham will resonate for a period of time. That's how I feel.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned the Blue Nile. Listening back, because I think they only had 4 albums.
You're probably right. Yeah.
And I did exactly what you just said, where I haven't listened to them in a long time. And about a month ago, I was like, the Blue Nile, I'm just going to listen to the 4 albums straight through.
Yeah.
Just to reconnect with it.
Yeah.
Their last album, High.
Yeah.
Which was my least favorite, is now my favorite. And it's you come at it differently. You've experienced life differently or whatever, and you connect with things you're at a different point in life, and it's gorgeous.
I mean, our heritages are a little bit the same. So we like Genesis and the Nile and atmospheric music. But I mean, how many artists really do that to you? I mean, I can still go back and play Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and go like, phenomenal. Just to hear Candle in the Wind again, and then you hear and it hits you in a funny spiritual place. To me, I mean, I've always loved music, but same with Blue Nile. You go through this sense that but with Blue Nile particularly, and they were missed by many people because they're subtle. But I think there's a code again of soul. I did. PJ came to LA not too long ago, and we did a podcast on playing tracks that he hadn't heard himself on the record. So it was great to play it to him. And then, I couldn't understand a word he was saying. I mean, it's a Norwegian. I was like, we're gonna have to put words under the bottom here. So And I had to learn it, you know, because somebody was filming it. That when he spoke, I just went like, yeah. Yeah. He brought somebody with him who had it, like, you know, he's saying this. He was like, okay. But no, it wasn't as bad as that. But he's quite, you know, it's quite strong accent. So when I was putting the podcast back together again, I had to slow it down and go, I get it. I know what he's saying. But it was great because he was talking about Blue Nile, and he hasn't talked about Blue Nile in any depth. So I felt like I was getting real truths here, you know. And he did make the point. I mean, you'll enjoy the podcast because a lot of it is to do with Blue Nile, the way he works, how they worked, why they broke up. But their whole essence of Blue Nile was to move people. Right from the beginning, it wasn't like, oh, I think we're going to sell a lot, you know. It was like, are we doing something that makes you cry or laugh or makes you feel something? It was really, you know, he really brought home why they first got together, and I think that was. But I think we who have lived with lots of music and heard so much, heard that thing in Blue Nile, and what a voice, you know. Buchanan could, as he said, he could have sung anything on the floor and looked at it and it was emotional straight away. But it was good to hear him say, you know, we were looking for a hit, you know. It was none of that. It was like, did the album come off well, you know? And he'd talk about another album, like I think it was Peace in Our Time. He'd say, yeah, we didn't get that right. 2 or 3 tracks were right, really good, you know, family affair or something. But he said the rest of it we didn't know what we were doing, you know. So it's that real, I think what I'm saying, honesty, tremendous sense of honesty in Blue Nile. You know, so I think that's what we hear with records that we love. They've done it sometimes with a moment of pure communication, instead of saying we need to get in the top 5 with this, you know, we need to emulate what we did before. You know, I mean, when I say this relates to House of Stone and Light, it's primarily because it's the same live musicians. And I had a story with Jimmy. So there was some kind of mythology about this record. And I had that within the House of Stone and Light because I'd had to heal myself and go to the Grand Canyon and think of life a little bit differently. And with this, you know, Jimmy had hit me on another level, which, and I think, how Kyle, how is it lucky that the players that don't even live in this country start to arrive, you know?
Right.
It's like, you know, I mean, and everybody I called, it was like, yes, you know, I'm still alive. Send me the song. Yeah. So it was unusual. And, you know, we lost Robbie Robertson, who played on House of Stone and Light. And that was, you know, it's very sad. And in my eyes, 2 different kind of players, but Ray Parker Jr. slipped into a space, and he's a superb, you know, soul player. I never really even realized how brilliant he was with Boz Scaggs and Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye. So in a way, that one artist that is above us all, you know, it was Ray Parker from his heritage came in and took the place of Robbie Robertson for me. So yeah, one of those things, you know, it's an album for me that I think has a time code in it. And I think, like you said with Blue Nile, they've got a time code written in there. You can play them forever. You know, Frank Sinatra probably had that. And there's lots of artists that don't have time codes written into them. And I made lots of albums, and I think they're of a high standard, but I don't feel sometimes you capture the whole thing. Bang. And you go, that is something's going on with. And I do feel on First and Last Freedom, I had that same sensation many years later, like doing this. I had the same feeling of what it was to be in the studio doing House of Stone and Light. I knew there was something a little bit unique about it, you know, the way we were constructing it. I felt it myself.
That's so cool.
Oh, thank you, Carl. I'm reading all this from a book.
Okay.
He likes it. You like what I just said? No, I mean, I know you get it, which is terrific. Yeah.
Yeah. Then Genesis is releasing The Lamb again.
I know. I've been trying to see when it comes out because I've been looking at Amazon going, I'm going to have to get it. I'm going to have to get that book. I'm going to have to see this. I'm reading a book now about that album. It's a really great book. It's the behind the story recording of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. There's another great thing that relates to this is lots of people when it came out didn't think it was such a great work. You know, we're all used to a different kind of thing. Now it's like that's the epitome of progressive.
That's the album.
That's the one. That's the one. And I go back to it and I go like, yeah, you know, Carpet Crawlers and but the way they did Fly on a Windshield, you know, it's great. You know, I mean, they're a tremendous band. But when it first came out, I was like, oh, they've changed and they're too rocky. And where's the English Trespass and Nursery Crime? You know, it's like they're in New York. They can't go to New York, you know. And yet now you can see that they were doing it in the same old house, you know, Led Zeppelin had recorded in. There was still the mystery around them. And yeah, I'm like you. I thought I've got this album probably about 3 or 4 times,
yeah.
But I'm going to have to get the next
one. Keep buying it.
They've only got to say there's a different photograph in there. I go, I need it. Gotta have it. You know?
Cool, man. All right. I'm good.
I'm good too. It's really great to see you, Carl.
Good to see you.
And just keep on doing what you do. You still playing drums?
Yeah, still doing drums, still at the church. Still the choir. And yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Good. Well, you look healthy and fresh, and it's something vital. I think it's down to my album. While you're feeling
absolutely right.
I'm totally down to that. That's what I bring health with this record. I bring health. It's really great to see you. And let me know. Look forward to seeing you.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'll see you soon, Pally.
All right. See you. Take care.
Bye.